Welcome back to Business Boone, a product of the Boone County Chamber and hosted by Deep End Talent Strategies. I'm Shauna Lake.
And I'm Lauren Byram. And today we are joined by Collin Green and RT Green from Team Green Law. Thank you so much for being here, guys.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So we would love to know a little bit about you both. So if you could kind of start off by telling our listeners a little bit about you and your story before we get going, that would be great.
It might be a little easier for me to start only because I'm older.
Okay.
I can't say wiser in any respects. I'm really a product of Indiana.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, born in Madison, Indiana, but eventually ended up in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
My father was a high school basketball coach for 20 years, 19, excuse me. Of one of those years, started in Frankfurt. The second year, he didn't coach, sold books. Again, book company. But I played basketball for Frankfurt High School when I was a sophomore. So all that moving around, from Madison to little town Austin, Indiana, Sellersburg, Indiana, Connersville, Frankfurt, back down to Sellersburg, and then eventually going to school at Indiana State. And then raising a family in Fort Wayne, I've been around.
Yeah.
And then when I say I've been around, I think that has helped me become a better person in the respect and a better lawyer, because I was introduced to a lot of people, got to know a lot of good folks, and realized what it means to be a Hoosier.
Yeah.
Even though I got my mom's side of the family from North Central Kentucky, so they got to push that in. But I am not a UK fan, folks. I am not.
Thanks for the clarification.
So
all right.
I think that says perhaps something good about me in that respect. So, but that's me, and then I need to refer, or you need to refer to Collin, perhaps, what it means to be raised in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Yeah.
So, went to school, kindergarten in Indianapolis. Was born Bloomington, lived in Columbus, Indianapolis for a short period. All my life, mostly in Fort Wayne, where I knew Lauren.
Yep.
Grew up with her family, and went from first grade to graduation at Homestead High School, then off to Ball State to Charlotte, North Carolina for several years. The economy did what it did in 2008. Came back home when got a master's in Indianapolis at IUPUI in construction, Purdue degree. Ball State was an architecture degree, and worked in that profession for several years. Married with my wife in Indianapolis, talked about a family, and construction was on the road a lot. I was at the Purdue Macarino job for several years, and we were bidding work that was looking outside of the state of Indiana for multi-year jobs, and thought that may not be the best way to start a family, and then really had a hard talk with Dad about law. I'm at late 20s, and do I want to do law school, right, in my late 20s? And there was a calling that was just, it was building and building and building over years, over those careers. It was always a thought in my mind. Did that, came out at 32 from my Robert McKinney downtown Indy, and then joined with my father and started working with him. So
that's awesome.
That's great. Well, I want to hear a little bit more about working together in a moment, but RT, you mentioned living in a lot of different places in Indiana, and every town has its own personality. Are there any particular places that you've lived that you would really say shaped who you are?
Well, because moving around a lot, what really sets off towns are the people, okay? And I had a great privilege to be really a grandson of two really, really, really nice people. And that's my grandmother and grandfather Vincent. Not that my other side of the family was bad, actually. These were really exceptional folks, they were. And that made a great impression upon me, because my grandfather, raised in the Baptist church, in fact, his father was a Baptist preacher. And it was always one of those, he'd speak to anybody, anywhere, anytime. And every once in a while I said, Grandpa, you know that man? He goes, oh, no, but he's one of God's creatures. And everybody ought to be respected because of that. And so that was the beginning. And then I was introduced to a lot of good folks, a lot of good lawyers. In fact, lawyers from here in Boone County in Lebanon, Indiana. That is Pete Obrimsky, who used to practice law here, actually was a basketball player at IU, and ended up getting a job through Pete, clerking for Par Ritchie here.
His daughter is Katie Reisner, who works with
and so I was exposed to all that, and then I ended up getting a job in Columbus, Indiana, and worked for a fellow named Leon Klein. Leon was really, really, real good trial lawyer. I learned a lot about. Leon couldn't hear because he was a B-17 pilot during World War II. Wow. Went up 35 times, came back down, but shot down once. And one day I tried to explain to him, or I asked him the question. I said, "Why the sign on your in the office, the Lucky Bastards Club?" I said, "What's that all about?" And he turned to me and said, "My boy, that's when you 25 missions or more over Europe on a B-17 through 35. You must understand, every time I went up, I had a 1 in 3 chance of not coming back.
Sure.
So it also taught me the sense of heroism and dedication.
Yeah.
And Leon was that man. I learned a lot. And I learned a lot really from Pete as well, too. Pete was the type of lawyer that was a fighter, but he also thought before he fought. Not that Leon didn't. He thought a lot. I thought a lot about it. But I had that exposure, and that made me a better man, and it made me a better lawyer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I know that both of you didn't originally want to be lawyers, or maybe didn't think that law was the path that you were going to first take. And I know specifically, Collin, that wasn't the first path that you took. So can you kind of talk about like what life experiences pushed you in to go down the path that you were in? I know that you said it was because of family, but maybe talk to us a little bit more about that.
My first experience in architecture was with a firm out in Charlotte, and I still remember it from this day. Made it through 5 years of undergrad because that was the program requirement. Made it to Charlotte, left Indiana, wanted to be on the East Coast, and one of the engineers that was in that firm would take the young guys out for lunch. And he got to know me, and he said, "Collin, your father has a practice back in Indiana. Have you ever thought about joining him and leaving this profession? Because I think that's what you should do." And I said, no, I haven't.
Right.
And so that seed was planted back in 2006 when I graduated, and that was that first summer out of the state on my first job, and that was planted. Dad never pushed, never, he let me find my own path. And I'm an outdoors person, so I made it into the landscape architecture part. That's what I did in that firm. The economy did what it did, and I made it back. Went into the built world with construction, and then I went through a master's program. I said, I can do this. I can go back to school. I did it, right? I've never thought I was going to do another schooling after undergrad. And then that gave me another jolt, saying, because law school seemed daunting. You had a test to get in, you had to make it through the law school, and then you had a test to get out. And now I'm in my late 20s thinking about a family, and do I really want to do this? Did that, started at night school. My wife was working. We had no kids yet, but kids were, we wanted to do it in that time period. So I said, I cannot do this night program because that's a 4-year deal. I went into the day program and got out in 3. So, but in that during law school, I was clerking, working with the legacy firm with my father in Indianapolis, and getting to know the personal injury side of the law. So, and got to work side by side with my father, and also my wife is operations of this firm. So it is a big family, or it's a family unit as well as a team unit with all of our people in the office.
Awesome.
So
That's great.
It really is.
Working together with family, and particularly for the father-son relationship, adds a different dynamic to the work environment. I'd love to hear from each of your perspectives. How does that change working together, and how is that working together?
Collin, you start because I'm fearful I'm going to say bad things.
I doubt that.
it has its ups and downs, right? But I think what is unique is that at the end of the day, or starting the day out tomorrow, it's still going to be a unit. No matter if there was an up or down or a disagreement, we have the same vision, we have the same path moving forward with this team. Where maybe if it wasn't that family dynamic, maybe one would go elsewhere, right? It's had enough of this. But this family unit is going to stick together. This team's going to stick together to keep growing and providing this service to people that need it. Maybe a little differently than our competitors. So,
the way I look at it, with respect to us working together, I look back with respect to my father, who was a high school basketball coach for 19 years. And he coached myself and my brother Steve. And there were times when internally I cursed the fact that he was my coach. And there were other times I was so happy that he was. And so that kind of set the tone for me in my relationship with Collin working together. Because I can still remember some of the practices when, Dad would, I don't yell at Collin, but Dad would yell and say, why are you doing that? You're not putting out your best effort. All the things. But at the end of the day, he always ended up saying, you did a good job here. This is what you need to do. And make sure you always call your mother on weekends. Did all those things. And so that's the way I kind of approached Collin with working side by side. Because I know sometimes, like you said, there's friction. But long as we're dedicated to making sure that we do our very best as lawyers to deliver the best legal service to our client and be dedicated to that, then I think I've done my job and he's done his job. And that's what Team Green is all about.
Yeah. I love the team, the basketball analogy,
Yeah.
so I love that. So you previously were part of another partnership in Indiana, but that has since dissolved and now you are Team Green. So can you talk to me a little bit about the lessons that maybe you learned about dissolving a partnership and building something?
Well, first off, you never really go into law to break up and to get divorced, okay? So no, and I'm sure as we go along. But what it did teach me is that as long as the vision of your partners is consistent with the ultimate, your vision and what the law firm's all about, then good things happen. In respect to the old law firm, my former law partner had relatives, if you will, sons and sons-in-law involved, and I had son, which could be was involved as well. And that dynamic, that consideration, all of a sudden, some of the things that both Tom, my former law partner, and I were thinking about being cohesive began to split. So, and what I've learned from that is that vision, that commitment has to be consistent throughout. That if we start going one way, Collin goes one way and I go the other, we're bound to fail. And so that's the lesson that I've learned, and that's the reason for dedication to what our clients, dedication to the very purpose why we're in practicing law. Here I am, 74 years old, I'm still at it. Why? I like it. And I even like it more because I'm practicing with my son. But I don't go to work every day to entertain myself. I go to work because it's what I'm trained to do and what I know I need to do, and what I'm always dedicated to making sure the clients get the best legal service.
Yeah,
That's great.
this is a natural separation because
right.
both dads and sons wanted to work in. So
Together.
yeah.
Nice. Collin, you mentioned the word team being important beyond the family members, and I'm assuming that team in the name of the firm is really intentional. What does that mean, and how does that come to life every day in the firm?
Sure. As it was well explained by my father, the origin, really for my purpose of having the joint idea of using team was one of the options, right? And that's what we landed on. Grandpa played college basketball at Hanover. He was an athlete. Dad was an athlete. Grandpa coached Dad. I was an athlete. My dad coached my brother and I in AAU ball. I have two children, and I am now coaching them in their first leagues at First Baptist Church. And so it is I've grown up where it's not just one. It's a group to get to the end, to get to that goal. And so in the interior of the law firm, we have team settings. We have groups, or we call pods or teams, that our client experience is that's the team that's going to help me through this process, and I'm not going to be bounced around. And so we revamped this firm in comparison to the legacy firm. It was not in that manner. So I think that team atmosphere has bled into that way, that the experience from the client, it's the client experience, and they get that team experience. I know I have not just one person, that person on the billboard, is that person the only one working on my case, or is he not, or she not? I don't know. When they go in and go through the process, they'll meet their team, and they'll stay with the team from start to finish. So
That's great.
Thank you.
I think we all want an experience like that.
Yeah.
So what does it mean to serve the communities that you also grew up in?
It goes back. My father, the story my father shared. Well, I was there personally for a while. Grew up in this little small town in southern Indiana, Austin, Indiana. It didn't have a fire department, and so we're going to go to church, to the Methodist church there along Highway 31 in Austin, and I had my little Sunday school suit. And all of a sudden, you could see the smoke billowing up as we went into church, and my dad drove over to this house. It was a flame. It was smoke rolling out. This was early Sunday morning, and they had a bucket brigade. People were throwing water on it. And my father, we assisted. I didn't, but my dad did. And my father, at that particular point in time, went to at that time, the guy that owned a packing company. He was the guy that owned the town, really, and asked with another group of folks, saying, "Hey, we need a fire department. Will you buy the truck if we supply the manpower?" And what the owner in this, Jack Morgan, indicated, "All right, I'll buy the truck. You can put it on my property." I said, and that's the beginning of a volunteer fire department. My father had that sense of community, and because of that disaster, understands that you got to give back. You got to go back to the community. You got to be able to say it's not all about the dollars. It is. Now, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's nice to make money, okay, but it's also important that you go back and give to the community and show that you are concerned about the community and give. And I think we're attempting, and we are doing what we can for things that we're not expecting any money back. All we're expecting is that people show that we're part of the community and serving the community. And I think Collin can speak better to those what we're involved with as far as the communities we're in here in Indiana. Close for Joe's, for example.
That's right. In Fort Wayne, there's an organization, Closer Joe's, giving needs to the veterans that need or needy. So we got teamed up with the Closer Joe's military. I did not serve, Dad did not serve, but grandparents served, great uncle served. So it means a lot to us here in HVAC here in Indianapolis, military organization that helps military veterans or active that have needs. So we've been volunteering there, and we'll continue to plan for the future. They have a stand down in Marion County where they bring in, it's a day of having all the needs in one place, and there's one in Fort Wayne that we did last fall, so we're going to continue to volunteer there, those two organizations. And then not so much on the needs side, but we do sponsor a number of sports teams here in Indiana, and because of the team, right, it jives with who we are, but we are able to then get tickets through that sponsorship, and we give out tickets to the community, put your name in the hat, but it is allowing maybe some that wouldn't go to these sporting events to get to those sporting events. So that's another way we work on and giving back to the community. So
That's great.
Yeah. Sean and I were just at the Ignite game for OJRV, which is a veteran organization, and Team Green was there sponsoring them, so that's awesome.
there will be a few of us there on Friday. This Friday.
Cool. Yeah, it was really fun to see your name as a sponsor, so that's great.
That's nice. Even when you have a strong sense of community and a strong sense of team, there are going to be disagreements and things that you don't see eye to eye on. How do you handle disagreements in the business, as family members working together, and what advice would you have for other people in business?
Well, in my instance, if I upset Collin and it gets back to my wife, if it clears my wife, then I know I'm okay. In all seriousness, yeah, there are times when we don't mesh. We may have some disagreements. As long as we come back, I express, and the worst thing that I can do is lose temper. Mm-hmm. I've never made a good decision angry. Mm-hmm. And so what I do, I take a step back, we have a conversation, we work through, always with the idea that we make sure that we're delivering good legal services. Is this the best that we can do? Mm-hmm. And he may explain, this is the best we can do. This is the reason why. And it makes it a lot easier. That's how I react to some of his ideas. And at the same time, not I fly through the roof or anything like that, but we have a discussion. And that's the best way to do it. And those discussions, it can never be in anger. It has to be, it's business. Yeah. And they have to approach it that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So my experience has been reach out to someone else that may have been through it. So just about 2 years, or coming up on 2 years, through other lawyers in Indiana, I've learned that they're using a coaching service that coaches nothing but lawyers, and then they're based out of Atlanta. I read a book, talked to some lawyers that are using that service, and now I'm using this coaching service now. We're coming up on 2 years. And so if there's these constraints or there's these blockades that we may have or we can't figure out how to get around it, I have a coach that I meet with every 2 weeks, and I can bounce ideas off him. And then during quarterly, we go to a handful of us from the firm go to Atlanta for seminars, and then there's just a ton of lawyers there from all over the United States. And then you get to bounce ideas off them. Right? Here's what I've had troubles with. Have you ever experienced that? Sure have. Here's what I've done that helped us get through there. And so that's really, I think we've seen a big change in our firm in the last 2 years because of being around other lawyers and learning from each other. So
that's great.
It's been a big help.
We're very big proponents of coaching and professional development.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
I did not know this. Right? When we started this firm, that was something that was kind of foreign to me. I did not see it in the legacy firm. And then when I started talking to some lawyers, I really think highly of in Indiana, and they were using this program. I said, well, we have to. There's just no other option. And it's really been really big changes for us.
And that's the generational gap. And that's what I'm learning from. And the other thing the other thing that scares the crap out of me, but it's not the other thing, is how I can be involved with AI.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
Yes.
and this is something that he's coaching me through, okay?
I need some coaching.
But it's some, and I mean, here we are talking, as we drove out here to the studio, watching that huge data center being put in, all of a sudden you realize the world is changing. And even at 74, the world's not going to wait for me.
Yeah.
And so it's not going to wait for Team Green. And so that's, I really do appreciate what he has done and being able to share with me.
Yeah. So what do you think that you've learned from each other that maybe you wouldn't have found in any other law firm?
It's a tough one, Lauren.
Maybe that's you. Yeah, I'll go for you.
Maybe there's probably both sides of the spectrum. Maybe a little maybe forgiveness if if a mistake was made,
Yeah.
but maybe also, you're my son, and you're top of the you got a spotlight on you. I mean, you gotta perform to your highest potential because this is our name, this is our legacy. This is 2 generations now. I hope it's going to be 3 generations. And so, again, that vision, I have a vision that if my children wish, that the opportunity will be there, and their children. So that's where I think, working together, I wouldn't experience maybe in another firm somewhere.
Yeah.
So,
And for me, the fact that he's gone out and got coaching, and bringing that coaching back to the law firm has really helped me. And to the extent of treating it as a business. And this is the most difficult thing in the practice of law, and perhaps with the practice of medicine or whatever, is that you've got to put your clients' and your patients' interest above your own dollar and cent interest. So how do you marry that, run it as a business, run it as an efficient business, and still deliver good legal services? And so, not that we struggle with it, but it's something that we keep at every meeting. That's where are we on? What's the bottom line? Okay, we're making money. That's good, but at the same time, are we doing a good job for our clients?
Yeah.
And if we're not, what are the problems? Can we face it? And as he's pointed out, we want to make it a good Team Green experience. And then you would tell your friends and neighbors,
Sure.
hey, go to these people. They know what they're doing. And so that's the highest compliment.
Yeah.
2 things happen: you help somebody, and you put some money in your pocket. And then somebody else tells you to go see them. What wonder? I mean, it can't be any better. Can't be any better.
You just articulated all of the levers that business owners are trying to keep in some sense of balance all the time. So I feel that very deeply. So thank you.
It's a daily effort.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's for me. It's been a lifetime. Okay, and I know I'm sounding corny a little bit, but my wife was in a school administration for 25 years, a middle school principal, and she would come home and talk about the needs of the student. What are we doing for the student? Okay, these are problems for the staff, but what are we doing? How can we solve problems for the staff and still deliver what we're here to do, is educate our children? And she was is dedicated and dedicated to our grandkids to make sure that happens. So I can't get away from that sense, and I'm happy that I can.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You both have already shared a lot of wisdom and a lot about your relationship professionally and personally. We always like to wrap up by asking our guests, what is something that you know now that you wish you had known earlier in your career?
Oh, God. So my career is not as long as his. Started at 32. I'm 43 today, so just a little over 10 years. I'm going to go back to and pick off where he left off. What we do is our goal is to help the individual through our legal knowledge and abilities and skills. But it is a business. If the business fails, we're not here. We're not here because we didn't make it.
Yeah.
So the business has to survive to be able to help these individuals. And I had really zero understanding of business 5 years ago when this firm, we started this firm. I mean, not zero, but minimal.
Yeah.
And I knew I was struggling. I knew I didn't understand. So I had to go figure it out on my own. Well, with his help, but I went and found books. I started reading, and then that's where I got into this program. But that's what I wish. If I knew it was coming and that we were going to be starting our own firm 5 years ago, but I knew that there was this coaching, and I was told this. I was told you better go get a coach, and I said, God, okay, I hear you. Forgot about it until 3 years down the road. So yes, I wish I would have gotten help at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
In 1977,
That was a good year.
yes,
Good music too.
the Supreme Court came down at a case starting out in Arizona where a personal injury lawyer did the unthinkable. He advertised.
Oh boy.
Advertised on TV and radio.
Oh no.
And that was a no-no. All right. Supreme Court went up and went all the way up to the Supreme Court. The case did, and the court said, "Hey, you can do that." I wish I knew. I started practicing in October of '77. I wish I'd have started advertising then. I couldn't have. I mean, I didn't have the money. There's no way. But and I was working for somebody else. But I wish I would have started that as soon as advertising then. And then the other regret is I probably should have had the dissolution much sooner than what I did.
Sure.
Those are two things that, I mean, hindsight's perfect.
Sure.
And my hindsight says those are my two regrets. But I'm very happy where I am right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for your candor.
Yes.
This has been a great conversation.
It really has. Yes. Thank you both
Yeah.
for being here.
You're
It means a
welcome.
lot.
Welcome.
It means a lot.
Yeah. And if our listeners wanted to learn more about Team Green, how could they do that?
Our website, countonggreen.com, and then all the socials. Our marketing person, Devin, says make sure you say all the socials, so we're on all the platforms at teamgreenlaw.com. So we put out some content. Our marketing guy, Devin, is really forcing me on a weekly basis because that's what we need to do. Again, advertising, and that's
Yeah.
essentially kind of free, right? Organic.
Yes.
But yes, all socials and then countonggreen.com.
Excellent.
One thing though,
Oh boy.
you know who advertised almost a century before, 1977?
I don't.
On the legal profession?
Abraham Lincoln.
Oh,
He
on
had-
the train.
Yeah, he had on the paper. He had put, Lincoln
the
won
paper.
good legal in newspapers in Springfield, Illinois.
Oh,
So
cool.
and he
was
became
a photo
president.
then,
So
too.
what the heck? I should have started sooner,
And
right?
no one took that to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. Thank you so much for joining us. This was a great conversation.
You're welcome.
I've enjoyed this very much. And we will be back with more insightful conversations. Until then, continue leading and growing with purpose.